Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Dr. Mohammad Mohsin Ali and today our lecture will be on the anatomy of the large blood vessels of the gut. So the arterial supply of abdominal viscera, this comes from the abdominal aorta. There are three major branches of the abdominal aorta which supply the different viscera which are present inside the abdominal cavity, and these are the celiac trunk, the superior mesenteric artery and the inferior mesenteric artery. Over here we have a picture which is representing this blood supply. We have the thoracic aorta over here. It crosses the level of the diaphragm, comes into the abdomen, becomes the abdominal aorta. Then it gives off these three large major trunks. So the first trunk that it gives is the celiac trunk, which supplies the viscera which are derivatives of the foregut. Then we have the superior mesenteric artery over here, which is supplying the viscera which are derived from the midgut, and then we have the inferior mesenteric artery which is supplying the viscera derived from the hindgut. Over here we have the similar representation but from a sagittal section. So we can see that they have the aorta. The first major trunk to arise from it is the celiac trunk. Then we have the superior mesenteric. The celiac trunk is the artery of the foregut. It supplies all the foregut derivatives which are present inside the abdomen. These derivatives include the lower end of the esophagus, the stomach, the upper part of the duodenum up to the opening of the bile duct, the liver, the spleen, and the major portion of the body and tail of the pancreas. The celiac trunk arises from front of the abdominal aorta. It arises from the anterior aspect of the abdominal aorta, below the aortic opening in the diaphragm at the level of T12 vertebra. The trunk is surrounded by the celiac plexus of nerves and it usually lies behind the lesser sac of peritoneum. It is around 1.25 centimeters long and it ends in three terminal branches. The celiac trunk, it just is a very short trunk, only 1.25 centimeters long, and it then terminates into three branches which are the left gastric artery, the common hepatic artery and the splenic artery. So over here we have a visual representation of the celiac trunk. Over here you can see the celiac trunk. This is the stomach. You can see that there is a short vessel arising from it which is the left gastric artery. Then we have a vessel which is the common hepatic artery, and finally we have the splenic artery which passes, as you can see in this direction, behind the stomach. So the left gastric artery is the smallest artery which arises from the celiac trunk. You can see the left gastric artery over here arising from this celiac trunk over here. This is the left gastric artery. It runs upwards to the left. It goes behind the lesser sac of the peritoneum and then it reaches the cardiac end of the stomach. Over here you can see, that we have two ends of the stomach. We have a cardiac end which is the end over here, and we have the pyloric end over here. So the left gastric artery runs upwards into the left behind the lesser sac, and it reaches the cardiac end of the stomach where it turns forwards and enters into the lesser omentum, and then it runs downwards. It is going to run downward along the lesser curvature of the stomach, and it will end by anastomosing with this artery over here which is the right gastric artery. This is the right gastric artery which is basically arising from the common hepatic artery, and it will end by anastomosing with the left gastric artery at the area of the lesser curvature of the stomach. So the left gastric artery usually gives off these 2 to 3 esophageal branches at the cardiac end of the stomach, and once it is passing along the lesser curvature, it gives off many short gastric branches which supply the stomach in this region. The next artery, the next branch of the celiac trunk is the common hepatic artery. So the common hepatic artery, we will just see in a moment its course. It runs downwards, forwards and to the right behind the lesser sac, and then it reaches the upper border of the duodenum where it enters the lesser omentum, and then it runs upwards as the proper hepatic artery. The common hepatic artery becomes the proper hepatic artery after it has given off a major branch known as the gastroduodenal artery. So the proper hepatic artery will then run into the right free margin of the lesser omentum in front of the portal vein to the left of the bile duct, and it will reach the porta hepatis in the liver. And once it reaches the porta hepatis, it will divide into the right and left hepatic arteries. So the common hepatic artery, we will visualize this course in just a minute. The major branches of this artery are the gastroduodenal artery, which divides further into the right gastroepiploic artery and the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. Then we have another branch which is the right gastric artery. We just studied that we have a right gastric artery which is coming from the common hepatic artery, which we have a left gastric artery which is coming from the celiac trunk, and both anastomose along the lesser curvature of the stomach. And finally we have a cystic artery. This cystic artery is usually a branch of the right hepatic artery, not of the common hepatic artery. Over here we can see the course of the celiac trunk and its major vessels. So we have the celiac trunk over here, then we have this left gastric artery which runs upwards and to the left, and then it supplies the lesser curvature of the stomach as well as the cardiac end of the stomach, where it gives off the branches to the esophagus. Then we have this common hepatic artery. So we can see that this common hepatic artery, it is running to the right side. It is running to the right side, and it gives off a right gastric artery. It gives off a right gastric artery which is going over here, and then there it is anastomosing with the left gastric artery. It also gives off this major branch known as the gastroduodenal artery, and beyond the origin of the gastroduodenal artery, the common hepatic artery becomes the proper hepatic artery. The proper hepatic artery enters into the porta hepatis, where it then divides into the right hepatic artery and the left hepatic artery, and the right hepatic artery in turn gives origin to the cystic artery which supplies the gallbladder. The gastroduodenal artery over here, as you can see, we will just see in a minute its relation to the duodenum. It is going to divide into two major branches. One of these is the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, and the other one of these is the right gastroepiploic artery. So the right gastroepiploic artery, it will anastomose with the left gastroepiploic artery, which we will just see in a minute, which is coming from the splenic artery, and these two will form an anastomosis around the greater curvature of the stomach. Whereas the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery will be supplying the portion of the head of the pancreas, and it will be anastomosing with the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. Now in this diagram you can better appreciate the relations of the branches of the common hepatic artery. So we said that this is the common hepatic artery over here. It gives off this tiny little branch which is the right gastric artery, and this right gastric artery ends by anastomosing with the left gastric artery. Then this common hepatic artery, it gives off this major structure. This is the one which I am highlighting with my pointer right now. This is the gastroduodenal artery. As you can see, this gastroduodenal artery is at the upper border of the first part of the duodenum. So we have this stomach over here, then we have the first part of the duodenum right over here. We have the second part of the duodenum over here, and finally we have the third part of the duodenum, and finally the fourth part of the duodenum over there. So at the upper border of the first part of the duodenum, we have the gastroduodenal artery which is originating from the common hepatic artery, and then it passes behind this upper part of the duodenum, this first part of the duodenum. Over here, once it is behind this first part of the duodenum, we see that it divides into this artery which is running into the pancreaticoduodenal groove. This is the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, and it also gives off this major branch known as the gastroepiploic, the right gastroepiploic artery, which you can see is forming an anastomosis along the greater curvature of the stomach. And then once it has given off the gastroduodenal artery, the common hepatic artery becomes the proper hepatic artery, which you can see it enters into the porta hepatis. It divides into the right hepatic artery and the left hepatic artery, and the right hepatic artery gives off a further cystic artery which is going to supply the gallbladder. The next major branch of the celiac trunk is the splenic artery. The splenic artery is the largest branch of the celiac trunk, which runs horizontally to the left. So we can see that we had one major branch which was going to the right, which was the common hepatic, and we have the splenic now, which is running horizontally to the left along the upper border of the pancreas behind the lesser sac. It crosses the left suprarenal or the adrenal gland and the upper part of the left kidney, and then it enters into the lienorenal ligament, which is a ligament connecting the spleen to the kidney, and then it enters the hilum of the spleen and divides into 5 to 7 splenic branches which ultimately supply the spleen. We have numerous pancreatic branches which arise from the splenic artery. The largest branch of these is known as the arteria pancreatica magna, which is a very large branch arising from the splenic artery and supplies the body of the pancreas. And we also have an arteria chordae pancreatica, which is supplying the tail of the pancreas. We have 5 to 7 short gastric arteries which arise from the terminal part of the splenic artery, and we also have a left gastroepiploic artery which is anastomosing with the right gastroepiploic. Over here you can see the course of the splenic artery. We can see that it is running horizontally to the left along the upper border of the pancreas. It reaches the spleen where it divides into short splenic branches. It also gives off this major branch, which is the left gastroepiploic, which anastomoses with the right gastroepiploic artery, and it gives off these short gastric arteries, which are 5 to 7 in number, and they supply the stomach. We have the same visual representation of the branches of the celiac trunk over here. This is the left gastric artery, which is arising from the celiac trunk, and it is anastomosing with the right gastric artery, which is coming from the common hepatic artery. We have the common hepatic artery over here, and we have the splenic artery over here. As you can see, it is running along the upper border of the pancreas, and it is reaching the hilum of the spleen, where it is dividing into splenic branches. It is also giving off this large branch, which is the left gastroepiploic artery, and this is going to anastomose with the right gastroepiploic artery along the greater curvature of the stomach. Over here the stomach has been reflected, so the anatomy over here is a little bit different than from what you can see over here. The next major artery, the next major arterial trunk which is supplying the derivatives of the midgut is the superior mesenteric artery, and the branches of this superior mesenteric artery are running between the layers of the mesentery. It supplies all the midgut derivatives, which include the lower part of the duodenum below the opening of the bile duct. It also supplies the small intestine, the jejunum and the ileum, the appendix, the cecum, ascending colon, and right 2/3 of the transverse colon are also supplied by the superior mesenteric artery. And it also supplies the lower half of the head of the pancreas as well. It arises from the abdominal aorta at the level of L1 behind the body of the pancreas, and its origin is 1 centimeter below the celiac trunk, which, as we studied earlier, was arising roughly at the level of the T12 vertebra. It terminates in the right iliac fossa by anastomosing with a branch of the ileocolic artery. It gives off 5 sets of branches. These branches arise from its right as well as from its left side. The major branches that arise from the right side of the superior mesenteric artery are the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, the middle colic artery, the right colic artery, the ileocolic artery, and then we have the jejunal and the ileal branches which arise from the left side of the superior mesenteric artery. Over here you can see that this is the abdominal aorta. You have the celiac trunk over here, and 1 centimeter below it, behind the body of the pancreas, we have this origin for the superior mesenteric artery. And you can see that once this is running between the layers of the mesentery, it is running downwards. It is giving off different branches, and we have 4 major branches which are arising from the right side, and we have these short jejunal branches and ileal branches which are arising from the left side. The major branches from the right side are the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery. As you can see, this is running in the groove between the pancreas and the duodenum, and it is going to anastomose with the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. We have the middle colic artery over here. We have the right colic artery, as finally we have the ileocolic artery. And as you can see, this ileocolic artery is giving a branch which is anastomosing with the superior mesenteric artery, and this is the termination of the superior mesenteric artery in the right iliac fossa. We have a similar diagram over here. We can see the superior mesenteric artery over here. This one was the celiac trunk, and this is the superior mesenteric artery. The first one we have over here is the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, which has not been shown in its entirety. Then we have the middle colic artery over here. This is the middle colic artery, and as you can see, this middle colic artery is supplying branches to this transverse colon. And then we have the right colic artery, which is mainly supplying this ascending colon, and then we have the ileocolic artery, which is going to supply the cecum. And then we have the left side. On the left side we have the jejunal branches and the ileal branches, these ones. As you can see over here, we have the short vessels over here, which are the jejunal and the ileal arteries, which are 15 to 18 in number and arising from the left side of the superior mesenteric artery. So let's study the branches in detail. We have the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, which is arising from the right side of the superior mesenteric artery at the upper border of the third part of the duodenum, and it is going to divide into the anterior and posterior branches These branches are going to run, as we have said earlier, in the pancreaticoduodenal groove, and they are going to supply the head of the pancreas and the duodenum, and they are going to end by anastomosing with the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. So nothing really tough about this one. Then we have the middle colic artery. We have said that this arises from the right side of the superior mesenteric artery, just below the level of the pancreas. It runs downwards and forwards in the transverse mesocolon. So it runs in the mesentery of the transverse colon, and over here it divides into right and left branches. These right and left branches, they are going to anastomose with the right and left colic arteries respectively. The right colic artery, we have said this is the branch of the superior mesenteric artery. The left colic artery we will study later on is a branch of the inferior mesenteric artery. And over here it will form further branches. These will make arterial arcades, which you are going to study when you study the large intestine, and they are going to finally supply the transverse colon. So this is the blood supply of the pancreas and the duodenum in all of its entirety. We have the celiac trunk over here. It gives off the common hepatic artery, which gives the gastroduodenal artery. From this gastroduodenal artery, we have the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. And this superior pancreaticoduodenal artery usually gives off anterior and posterior branches to supply the anterior and posterior aspects of the head of the pancreas. Then we have the superior mesenteric artery, which gave us the inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery at the upper border of the third part of duodenum, and this is going to again run into this pancreaticoduodenal groove and supply the anterior and posterior aspects of the head of the pancreas, and the inferior and superior arteries are also anastomosing over here. And finally we have the splenic artery over here, which is going to give off the arteria cauda pancreatica and the arteria pancreatica magna, which we studied earlier were large arterial branches to the body as well as to the tail of the pancreas. Over here you can see that this is the superior mesenteric artery, this is the middle colic artery over here. So this large middle colic artery over here, this is going to supply the transverse mesocolon. It is going to form arterial arcades and going to supply the transverse colon. You can see that it is giving off this right branch, which is anastomosing with the right colic artery, this one, and it is going to give off a left branch, which is anastomosing with the left colic artery, which we will study in a short while. The next branch of the superior mesenteric is the right colic artery. This right colic artery, it arises near the middle of the concavity of the superior mesenteric artery. It goes to the right side behind the peritoneum, and it divides into branches which descend and descend. So the ascending branches, the ones that go upwards, they should obviously anastomose with branches which are coming from the middle colic artery. And the descending branches, they are going to go down and anastomose with branches of the ileocolic artery at the upper part of the ascending colon. And these branches are ultimately going to form an arch, which will give smaller branches to the upper 2/3 of the ascending colon and the right flexure of the colon. So the right colic artery is the artery of the ascending colon, the upper 2/3 of the ascending colon, and the right flexure of the colon. The ileocolic artery, it also rises from the right side of the superior mesenteric artery. It's a large branch to do so. It runs downwards and to the right, and then it divides into superior and inferior branches. This superior branch will anastomose with the descending branch of the right colic artery, whereas the inferior branch, this is the one which will anastomose with the termination of the superior mesenteric artery ultimately. It gives off 4 branches. It gives off an ascending colon branch, ascending colic branch, which supplies the lower one-third of the ascending colon. It also gives off anterior and posterior cecal branches, which supply the cecum. It gives off an appendicular branch, which supplies the appendix, and gives off an ileal branch, which supplies the terminal part of the ileum. So over here you can see the ileocolic artery. This is the ileocolic artery, which is originating from the superior mesenteric artery, and it is giving off various branches. So this artery that it is giving over here, this first one, this is the one that is going upwards. The one that is going upwards is the ascending branch, and this ascending branch is going to anastomose with the right colic artery through its descending branches. Then we have the anterior cecal artery over here and the posterior cecal artery over here, which are labeled 2 and 3. We have the appendicular branch, which is going to supply the appendix, and finally we have the descending branch, which is going to terminate and might supply the terminal part of the ileum. Over here we have another diagram depicting the course of the superior, the ileocolic artery. It gives off a superior division and it gives off an inferior division, which gives off 4 branches. it will give off a branch which is going to supply the lower one third of the ascending colon. It is going to give off the anterior and posterior cecal arteries. It is going to give off this appendicular artery, and it is going to give off these branches which are going to supply the terminal part of the ileum. And finally, we have the jejunal and the ileal branches which are arising from the left side of the superior mesenteric artery. These are 15 to 18 in number, and they run between the two layers of the mesentery towards the gut to supply the jejunum and the ileum. These branches anastomose with each other and they form arterial arcades. So these arterial arcades, these will then give off straight branches which are also called vasa recta, and these will supply the intestine. They supply the jejunum and the ileum except for the terminal part of the ileum, which is supplied by the ileocolic artery. The number of the arcades, it is only 1 to 2 in the jejunum, but it increases in the ileum to 3 to 4 or even 5. The vasa recta, they are longer and they are less numerous in the jejunum. They are usually distributed alternately to opposite surfaces of the gut, and the neighboring vessels do not anastomose with each other. So here let's have a look at these branches. We have this artery which is basically arising from the jejunal branch, and as you can see, it is some of these branches, they combine with each other and they form arterial arcades. These arterial arcades, they are basically formed by combination or anastomosis of the jejunal branches or the ileal branches with each other, and then they are going to give off these straight arteries known as the long vasa recta, and these ultimately supply the gut. And as you can see, in the jejunum we have 1 to 2 arcades and long vasa recta, whereas in the ileum we have a larger number of arcades, which may be 3 to 4 or even 5, and the vasa recta over here are relatively shorter and more numerous. Over here you can also see this similar diagram. You have the superior mesenteric artery which is going to give off these intestinal vessels. These intestinal vessels are going to form arterial arcades which are going to form these straight vessels called the vasa recta, and these vasa recta are finally. Now we come to the inferior mesenteric artery. This is the artery which is supplying the derivatives of the hindgut, which are the left one third of the transverse colon, the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, the rectum, and the upper part of the anal canal above the level of the anal valves. The origin is from the front of the abdominal aorta behind the third part of the duodenum at the level of L3 vertebra, and its origin is usually only 3 to 4 centimeters above the bifurcation of the aorta. So we have the celiac trunk coming at the level of T12, we have the superior mesenteric artery coming off at the level of L1, and finally the inferior mesenteric artery coming off at the level of L3 vertebra. It continues and the sigmoid mesocolon as the superior rectal artery, and it only gives off two branches, the left colic artery and the sigmoidal arteries. So over here you have the abdominal aorta which gives off this inferior mesenteric artery at the level of the L3. The inferior mesenteric artery gives off a very large branch known as the left colic artery, and the left colic artery further divides into ascending and descending branches. This branch, the ascending branch, as you can see, this is supplying the descending colon, and it is also supplying the distal one third or the left one third of the transverse colon as well as the left colic flexure. And finally it is this left colic artery is going to give off this descending branch which is anastomosing with the sigmoid arteries which are supplying the sigmoid colon. And after giving off these branches, the inferior mesenteric artery, it continues as such as the superior rectal artery which is going to supply the rectum. The left colic artery is the first branch of the inferior mesenteric artery. It is going to run upwards into the left behind the peritoneum of the posterior wall of the left infracolic compartment. It divides, as we have seen, into ascending and descending branches. The ascending branch, it enters into the transverse mesocolon and anastomoses with the middle colic artery. It anastomoses with the left branch of the middle colic artery. Whereas the descending branch will anastomose with the highest sigmoid artery. The left colic artery, it forms a part of the marginal artery and it distributes branches to the left one third of the transverse colon as well as the descending colon and the left colic flexure. Over here you can see the left colic artery, it gives off this ascending branch. This ascending branch is going to supply the descending colon, the left colic flexure and the left one third of the transverse colon. It also gives off this descending branch. This descending branch will supply anastomose with the highest of the sigmoidal arteries. A similar representation is shown in this diagram as well. The sigmoidal arteries are 2 to 4 in number. These are the sigmoidal arteries. They pass downwards and to the left side, and they will anastomose to form the lower part of the marginal artery. The uppermost of these branches is going to anastomose with this descending branch of the left colic artery, whereas the lowest of these branches, this lowest sigmoidal artery, is also going to anastomose with the superior rectal artery, and these supply the descending colon in the region of the iliac fossa as well as the sigmoid colon. Finally, we have the superior rectal artery, which is basically the continuation of the inferior mesenteric artery beyond the root of the sigmoid mesocolon, and it crosses the left common iliac vessels in this route. It descends in the sigmoid mesocolon to reach the rectum. Once it reaches the rectum, so over here you can see this is the inferior mesenteric artery, which is crossing the common iliac arteries, and it is then continuing as the superior rectal artery. Once this superior rectal artery reaches the rectum, it divides into right and left branches. So these right and left branches, basically they arise opposite to the level of S3 sacral vertebra. They descend on each side of the rectum and they pierce the muscular coat of the rectum. And once they pierce the muscular coat, they are going to divide into multiple small branches which are anastomosing at the level of the anal sphincter to form loops around the lower end of the rectum. Over here, these are anastomosing with the middle and inferior rectal arteries in the submucosa of the anal canal. Finally, we have the marginal artery of Drummond. The marginal artery of Drummond is basically a huge arterial arcade. This huge arterial arcade that I am highlighting with my pointer right now, this is the marginal artery of Drummond. This is basically formed by anastomosis between the ileocolic artery, the right colic artery, the middle colic artery, the left colic artery, and the sigmoidal arteries. So it is basically formed by anastomosis between the major branches of the superior and the inferior mesenteric arteries. This is closest to the colon in the descending and the sigmoidal parts, and over here it is going to give off vasa recta, which are going to supply the colon. These vasa recta are similar to the vasa recta which we studied were coming from the jejunal and ileal branches. The importance of this marginal artery of Drummond is that it is representing a huge anastomosis which is supplying the colon. So even if one of the feeding trunks is missing, let's say that the sigmoidal arteries are missing or the sigmoidal arteries have to be ligated during any surgery, the rest of the branches which are coming from the left colic artery, they are still going to supply the region of the sigmoid colon. This is the importance of the marginal artery of Drummond, that it can still supply the colon even in the absence of one of the main feeding trunks. Then we have two major venous structures. We have the superior mesenteric vein and we have the inferior mesenteric vein. These veins accompany their named arteries, and they also have tributaries which are corresponding to the branches of their arteries as well. The superior mesenteric vein, as we can see, it will drain the blood supply from the small intestine, from the appendix, the cecum, the ascending colon and the transverse colon, the similar area to which the blood was being supplied by the superior mesenteric artery. It begins in the right iliac fossa from tributaries coming from the ileocecal region. It accompanies the superior mesenteric artery, and during this course it lies on the right side of the artery. It terminates behind the neck of the pancreas by joining the splenic vein to form the portal vein. The portal vein we will study in detail later on. The tributaries of the superior mesenteric vein are the veins which are corresponding to the superior mesenteric artery branches. We also have the right gastroepiploic and the inferior pancreatico-duodenal vein, which are forming the tributaries of the superior mesenteric vein. Let's take a look at this vein. Over here you can see this is the splenic vein, which is lying right directly behind the body of the pancreas. We have the superior mesenteric vein over here, and these are the tributaries. These are the various tributaries which are coming from the jejunum, the jejunal veins, the ileal veins. We have the ileocolic vein, we have the middle colic vein, the right colic vein, and we have the pancreatico-duodenal veins. So all of these tributaries ultimately come and they will drain into the superior mesenteric vein. This will join the splenic vein to form the portal vein. The inferior mesenteric vein will drain blood from the rectum, the anal canal, the sigmoid and the descending colon. It will begin as a superior rectal vein from the upper part of the rectal venous plexus. Inside the rectal venous plexus, it is going to communicate with the middle and inferior rectal veins as well. So it is going to begin as the superior rectal vein. Once this superior rectal vein crosses the left common iliac vessels, it will continue upwards as the inferior mesenteric vein. We have a similar course for the inferior mesenteric artery. Once it crosses these left common iliac vessels, it becomes the superior rectal artery. The opposite course for the rectal for the vein, that the superior rectal vein crosses the left common iliac vessels medial to the left ureter and continues upwards as the inferior mesenteric vein, which is lying lateral to the inferior mesenteric artery. This then ascends behind the peritoneum and passes lateral to the duodenojejunal flexure and behind the body of the pancreas, and ultimately this will open into the splenic vein, which as we know will anastomose with the superior mesenteric vein. The tributaries of the inferior mesenteric vein correspond to branches of the inferior mesenteric artery. So over here you can see the superior and the inferior mesenteric veins. The superior mesenteric vein is getting derivatives from the inferior pancreaticoduodenal vein coming over here, the middle right colic vein, the ileal colic vein, and the jejunal and ileal veins. So all of these are going to come and form the superior mesenteric vein ultimately. Whereas the inferior mesenteric vein is going to get the left colic vein and the sigmoidal veins, and it is basically a continuation of this superior rectal vein. The right gastroepiploic vein is also going to drain into the superior mesenteric vein. So the superior mesenteric vein will ultimately combine with the splenic vein, which is receiving the inferior mesenteric vein as well, and these two are venous structures will ultimately form the portal vein. Finally, we have the clinical correlates of the large blood vessels of the gut. We can have acute mesenteric ischemia. Acute mesenteric ischemia basically represents a sudden decline in the blood flow through the mesenteric vessels, which can lead to bowel ischemia and even bowel death. We can also have superior mesenteric artery or superior mesenteric vein occlusion. This can be due to thrombosis or due to any embolic phenomena, and this is usually followed by intestinal obstruction due to hemorrhagic infarction of the gut. Another important clinical correlate is that the third part of the duodenum, you will study this in the duodenum as well, that the third part of the duodenum, it basically lies like a nut between two tongs, and these tongs are basically formed by the aorta and the superior mesenteric artery. So this third part of the duodenum, which is basically lying a bit between the aorta behind it and the superior mesenteric artery in front of it, can get obstructed in this region. The last clinical correlate is that the inferior mesenteric vein, it lies in the free margin of a paraduodenal fold before it enters into the splenic vein. So sometimes when we are doing a surgery for a strangulated internal hernia in the paraduodenal fossa or in the duodenojejunal recess, we need to open the fold and we need to ligate the vein over here before we can reduce the internal hernia. This is just a diagram representing what mesenteric ischemia looks like. So over here you can see that this is a normal bowel with the mesenteric vessels. Sometimes we can have atherosclerotic blockage, we can have thrombosis, we can have any embolic phenomena which is going to block the superior and the inferior mesenteric vessels, and as a result of this we will get this thrombosed or thrombosed vessel leading to necrotic or dead tissue in the right colon as well as in the small intestine. So this is a visual representation of mesenteric ischemia. That's all from our lecture. Thank you so much for listening.